In today's world, we usually think of elephants as the undisputed giants of the land. These enormous creatures are the largest living terrestrial animals on Earth. So large, in fact, that adult elephants rarely fall prey to wild predators. Meanwhile, when we picture birds, perhaps an ostrich or an eagle, they rarely compare in size. Birds, we imagine, are small, delicate, and lightweight, the polar opposite of the mighty elephant. And for hundreds, maybe thousands of years, that has been our collective thinking. Elephants are big, birds are not, but once upon a time, off the coast of what is now Italy, something remarkable happened, something that flipped this idea on its head. Birds outgrew elephants. This fascinating story begins with a now extinct genus of elephant known as, among them were two of the largest elephant species to ever walk the earth. One of them was the largest elephant species ever recorded, so massive it weighed as much as a Toyota Corolla. And if that wasn't enough, its cousin was the second largest. These giants once roamed across Europe during the Middle and Late Pleistocene. But around 500,000 years ago, something changed. A group of these massive elephants migrated, likely using land bridges and islands, to what we now know as Sicily and Malta. Over time, rising sea levels trapped them there. Isolated, with limited resources and no predators, something strange occurred. These once gigantic elephants began to shrink drastically. This phenomenon is known as insular dwarfism, and over many generations it gave rise to the smallest elephant to ever live. Standing just 3 feet tall for males, and even smaller for females, this species was no bigger than a medium-sized pig. Weighing only 250 kilograms, or about 550 pounds, they were lighter than even modern-day baby elephants. But the elephants weren't the only ones undergoing strange changes on these islands. With no predators around, some animals did the opposite. They grew larger. This is known as island gigantism. From enormous owls and tortoises to the largest dormouse ever discovered, the islands of Sicily and Malta became home to some truly unusual giants. Among these creatures stood one particularly incredible anomaly, the largest swan to ever exist. Measuring up to 7 feet in length and boasting a wingspan of nearly 10 feet, this towering bird dwarfed the modern mute swan by about a third. Although it had hollow bones like other birds, making it lighter than the dwarf elephant, it was taller and longer, an impressive feat for a swan. This wasn't the first time in history that birds or bird-like creatures outgrew their terrestrial neighbors. On Hardig Island, a species of pterosaur even outgrew and preyed upon small dinosaurs. But in Sicily and Malta, the relationship between them was less predatory and more competitive. Both were primarily herbivores, with the swan perhaps occasionally snacking on aquatic creatures. But they filled similar ecological niches. However, with its height advantage, the swan could reach higher vegetation than the tiny elephant, possibly reducing direct competition. Still, on such limited land, interactions were inevitable. Occasional rivalries, scuffles over resources, they must have happened. Interestingly, due to its enormous size, may have even been flightless. Its feet were built more for walking than swimming, suggesting it spent most of its time on land, further increasing its contact with the miniature elephants. And the elephants, too, adapted. With slender limbs and concave backs, they were more nimble than modern elephants. They walked more on their toes, helping them navigate Sicily's steep, rocky terrain. They had thick coats and small ears, adapting to island temperatures in ways we don't usually associate with elephants. For a time, this strange duo thrived, an island ruled not by apex predators, but by a tiny elephant and a giant swan. But paradise doesn't last forever. Around 200,000 years ago, changing sea levels once again allowed new animals to migrate to the islands. This time, lions, wolves, and cave hyenas arrived. Along with them came larger herbivores like red deer, bison, oryx, and even hippos. New species have also settled in. To make matters worse, increased tectonic activity in the region likely put even more pressure on the environment. Limited resources, natural disasters, and new competition from powerful newcomers. This was a recipe for extinction. Gradually, the once dominant tiny elephant and the towering swan vanished from the island ecosystems, overtaken by stronger, more adaptable species. And yet the legacy of these creatures remains. Fossils remind us of a time when evolution took a strange turn, a time when birds grew taller than elephants, and elephants walked on their toes. A time when the laws of nature bent to the isolation of islands and something truly extraordinary took place. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more tales from the ancient world. Until next time, stay curious.